This is Ira Coleman. I'm here at BTC 2019. We have Amber and Rodney, the anti-money-laundering ninjas. And they're coming in from Canada. You guys are with Outlier Compliance, and you have an extensive background in the compliance industry. So if you can just share some light about what is your practice, what you guys are involved with, and how did you get interested into the blockchain and Bitcoin industry?
Sure. Do you want to talk about the practice, and I'll tell how we became involved in Bitcoin story?
Sure. So we're anti-money laundering compliance professionals. We mainly focus on trying to keep people out of trouble. We also deal with privacy and legislative compliance management.
What do we do? What do we build for people?
We build policies and procedures which are kind of along those lines of keeping people out of trouble, to help you kind of follow the legislative requirements as far as the law and regulation. And we also will do compliance audits, which are exactly as much fun as they sound like. So we will test your existing program to make sure that it meets the elements that you're required to do. We also provide training on top of that.
And is this more for the individual basis or for companies that are receiving these assets?
Typically it's for companies. You could do it on an individual basis, but usually if you don't have to do compliance, people don't want to. So
okay.
It's mainly business.
Good. And how did you guys get down this rabbit hole of Bitcoin and blockchain?
So in 2013, a friend of mine who was running a payment processing company called me up and said, hey, we're doing a lot of processing for this Bitcoin exchange. It's becoming a lot of our volume. We need to update our risk assessment. And at the time I said, yeah, I've read about it in Wired. I don't really know much about Bitcoin. I haven't transacted in it. Can you pay our retainer in Bitcoin? And he said, I can do that. I'm going to send you some articles. I need you to read it. You need to set up a wallet. I can't help you at all with that for obvious reasons. And you're going to have to brush up on your command line. Mm-hmm. And so all of the wallets were command line at the time. There's like beautiful graphic user interfaces now. And thank you so much to everyone who worked on that. We love you. Because the command line wallets were not easy. So he sent me the articles and he said, I'm going to call you, it's Thursday, I'm going to call you on Monday and ask if you're ready to receive Bitcoin. So on Friday, I ended up bailing on some meetings because I had stayed up late Thursday night reading. Saturday, I got in kind of a fight with my husband because I had bailed on a family event because I was still, I was like, I'm doing work stuff. And he's like, you're doing Bitcoin. Like, what is this? And it was just that I couldn't wrap my head around it. There were so many things that, and it's still that way. There are so many things to learn, and it was just brilliant. So
she kept coming out every now and then, and just like dispelling a whole bunch of information at once. Being like, guess what?
Did you know this?
This, and this, and then I'll be back.
Gross, matted hair and coffee. Like, yeah, it was probably terrifying. And on Monday, when he gave me a call and he said, okay, are you ready? And I'm like, no, I don't feel like I'm ever going to be ready, but yes, I have a wallet and I figured out basic security. And from there, we ended up doing work with a number of different exchanges and brokerages and trying to do a lot of education and get good information out to the community.
Great. So we know we're here at BTC 2019. What attracted you to be part of this experience?
The crew at C4 is amazing. I think the idea of having a conference that's just, education, getting solid information out there, solidly vetted talks and speakers and no shilling is incredible.
Yeah, it was the piece of being able to learn from experts who've been chosen by people that know what they're talking about, that didn't pay a price so that they could have some time on the stage. One of the things I saw on Twitter flying by was somebody referring to it as Learning Man. And that was a great way to kind of embody what is going on here, of everybody's here for the right reasons and not the wrong reasons, which can happen sometimes at conferences in this industry.
Sure. And you're one of the teachers. Were you teaching as well?
I was.
So what topics did you guys teach on during this week?
So I did a general overview, and we called it risk and regulation for builders, but it was just basically, if you're doing a startup in the blockchain space, what things should you be thinking about and where might there be regulatory consequences? So it covered a bunch of different areas. Yours was more focused.
Yeah, I did AML and fraud for crypto, so kind of helping people within this space figure out how to cover off one of those requirements that you have to do from a law perspective, and then covering off the other requirement that you have to do from a business practice perspective, and marrying those two as elegantly as possible, as well as some of the risks that you look at that you don't necessarily consider, like investor risk. So if somebody comes to you with a big check, it's really hard to say, maybe I should do some research into this person before I take your check. So kind of some of the education on that side.
And from your experience, are you noticing individuals getting caught up in anti-money laundering situations just because they're naive, or they didn't have the proper procedures and protocol in place? Or is it something that eventually just they get pinned against the wall because the law is changing?
I think that both of those things are true in different scenarios. Sometimes people just aren't sure which laws apply to them, and so they need that clarity. And sometimes there are just errors that happen. So the example that Rodney gave with investors, that's not uncommon. And we've seen that even with very big companies. So Ripple Labs was fined, and that's public. It's published by FinCEN here in the US. And part of that was that one of their investors, who's a very well-known person in the Bitcoin space, did a big transaction, didn't want to provide identification documents, kind of pulled a, hey, do you know who I am? And bullied one of their customer service people into doing a transaction for him, $700,000 fine. And so there was no malice there, but the company didn't do the things that they were supposed to do. And when they were examined by their regulator, it was really clear that they didn't do those things. So, and for what it's worth, Ripple has very publicly talked about all of the things that they've done to fix that since then. But I think that that was definitely something that had an impact, especially on their early growth.
Sure.
On that tip, it was one of the points that we drew out between both of our conferences or presentations, making sure that you're talking to experts in either securities, AML, whatever industry you're looking at that may potentially involve regulation. You're talking to experts early on and making sure you're in a good place with whatever your business model. And as it grows and as it changes, making sure that you're continuing those conversations with people that can give you the right advice, whether that's a lawyer, whether that's a consultant, making sure you're having those conversations as you move forward.
So going a little bit deeper into that is, as this industry continues to grow, becomes more popular, businesses are shifting over to utilizing blockchain technologies and using cryptocurrencies within their business. What do you look forward to seeing as that growth component continues to move forward?
I think things that solve real problems. So the things that are exciting to me are always those things that solve problems, whether they're small problems. So I think the first time that I was doing transactions with Bitcoin, it was amazing to me. But I've also used Bitcoin in the setting in terms of settling between companies, where I was settling with a company in the US, and between our two banks, they managed to lose a wire. So there's something really incredible about saying, I can just send you Bitcoin directly, and you can see that, even before it's confirmed, you can see that it's in the meme pool. And so it's there, you can see it, you can confirm it, and you can do all of those things on your own. And that's solving real problems in really cool ways. I think in the securities token space, I'm excited about ideas like companies actually knowing how many shares they have outstanding, which is one of those weird, dirty secrets that we don't think about. But if you ask any Fortune 500 company to tell you with certainty, how many shares do you have outstanding, none of them can. We just have funny accounting practices to skirt around it and sort of say, well, we think this number is what's on the books now.
Sure. And what about you, Rodney?
You hit most of the big ones. The disintermediation of anything financial, data, privacy, all of those things. There's some elegance to that of not having to rely on someone else to do that for you or to trust with those elements. And that was one of the things when I first got into Bitcoin that was terrifying, is there's no helpline. There's no like, I screwed up, I need help. It's all on you. And it's empowering after you get like a little comfortable with it. At the beginning, it is terrifying, and that's one of the pieces what make like these educational conferences so important, is to make sure that you feel comfortable taking that first step.
Well, thank you very much for your time this week, and we appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.
Thank you.